Right, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're starting to get a little bit of pushback now from various sort of fandoms and things like that. Obviously, we only have these kind of great franchises because, one, they're created, but secondly, they're followed. And one of the amazing franchises is Warhammer. Warhammer 40k, Warhammer, by Games Workshop, UK-based. Awesome, awesome, awesome franchise. It's just huge, monumental. I've got some playlists of it, actually, where I took like a basic dive in, and I really enjoyed it. And this is kind of my jam, right? You know, Warhammer crosses over with Judge Dredd, 2000 AD. In fact, they were inspired by a lot of 2000 AD stuff. And they made a really, what can be considered divisive statement. And they're getting some pushback from it. So we're going to dive into that today. The article will be linked down below. But I also want to just say, hey guys, I am making a movie. I've said it a few times, but I actually want to show you what you're in for a chance of winning if you donate $5 or more to my GoFundMe, which is linked down below. And I've got it here right now, and I'm going to be showing it tomorrow in a video. I said you would be in for a chance of winning a one-of-one prop. It's difficult to see it. This is a leather-bound sheath, double closed, and basically it's made out of hickory. This is a nautical-inspired spear made, for me to give away, and it will be signed. It is somewhat sharp, and this will be given away to someone who has donated $5 or more, and it will be signed by me, the cast, and crew. It's got leather wrap on it, and again, it's made out of this beautiful piece of hickory. Now, again, this is an ornamental prop. I have to stress that. And there you go. Basically, I've been saying about it for ages, and I've only just managed to actually get it in front of me. So there you go. That's what you're in for a chance of winning. If you want to find out actually who made that, you can find a link to an Instagram down below in the description box. But again, like I said, if you donate $5 or more, you're in for a chance of winning this absolutely fantastic prop. It is one of one, and it's inspired by, just flopped out the way there, it's inspired by stuff in the film. Anyway, let's dive into this. Sorry about that, ladies and gents. I've got to do it. The reason why is I've been saying about it for so long, but I've never shown anyone it because I didn't have it to hand. I only had images. Now I've actually got it in my hands. I thought I would just, first chance, show you guys. Anyway, let's dive into the article. It's a great article. Now, a long-time Warhammer 40k fan has recently penned and submitted a lengthy open letter to Games Workshop expressing his personal distaste for the UK-based tabletop developers' alleged willingness to support BLM. Now, you've got to distinguish between the motto, right, which everyone can get behind, and then the ideological organization. They're two separate things. Most people would, agree that the motto is clear cut and everyone agrees with it. But then there are open detractors, criticizers of the organization behind it, and I think they are justifiable. But basically, Games Workshop released a statement basically saying, to hell with everyone if you don't agree with us, sort of thing. All right, so on June 4th, in the wake of the then recent situation that had occurred, Games Workshop went to Twitter and posted this. So they said that one of the greatest powers of our hobby is its ability to bring people together in common cause, to build bonds and friendships that cross divides, and we believe in and support a community united by shared values of mutual kindness and respect. Our fantasy settings are grim and dark, but that is not a reflection of who we are or what we feel the real world should be. We will never accept nor condone any form of prejudice, hatred, or abuse in our company or in the Warhammer hobby. We will continue to diversify the cast of characters we portray through miniatures, art and storytelling so everyone can find representation and heroes they can relate to. And if you feel the same way, wherever and whoever you are, we're glad you are part of the Warhammer community. If not, you will not be missed. And the thing is that it's pretty broad. Like, there's been some comments recently, Jesus Christ, there's been some comments recently that with respect to like BLM and Palestine and things like this, and they don't, to hell with everyone else apparently, according to BLM as an organisation, which is just shocking, but whatever, I guess, to hell with everyone else. And anyway, so look, the closing proved to be far too divisive for one long-time player. Now, I will say, look, it's is pretty normal. Like, I've done some videos on this with respect to like Lovecraft. There was that Evil Hat Productions did like they took Lovecraft's work because it's public domain, and then they just butchered it and basically said, we love Lovecraft, but we don't love him, and we don't like what he created, but we like certain elements of it, and he's disgusting, but we're still going to profit off his imagination. Like, what? You're an idiot. And they did something similar, and this is the norm. This is the go-to, and I get it. But basically, we're getting pushback, and I like to see pushback, because and many people say, why do I make these videos? And I say, well, because if there is only one voice in the room, people believe that it is the only voice, the unified voice. You have to have opposing views, and you have to convey it appropriately, right? Like, I don't sit here and spout bigotry or just random hatred, sometimes, but not bigotry, like any kind of comments I'll make are like critique and kind of well thought out. And it's important to do that, because otherwise people will just think that, Twitter is actually the voice of the world, and that's really not the case. And it's concerning that people think that that's the voice of the world. So basically, Branimir, who he took to subreddit, right? And he obviously had a lot of frustration with Games Workshop's rhetoric, and he penned an open letter criticising the quagmire of terrifyingly single-minded vitriol. Interesting way of phrasing it, right? So, basically, the letter begins with Branimir outlining his love for the Warhammer franchise. I am one of the silent, one of those that lurk quietly in the background and immerse themselves into this hobby that I love, without sparing much attention to the community around me. I have sat and watched as the fandom and the franchise grew and changed, and not once did I feel the need to truly get involved beyond a few random comments until now, today. My perception of this franchise shifted irrevocably. Warhammer is for everyone. I remember when I first stumbled across a little shop near my home with a glass front, barely a few steps across, that had what I, at the time, thought were toys placed proudly on display for all to see. Intrigued as only a child could be, I walked inside intent on finding new toys to gawk at. What greeted me instead were a few half-full shelves of boxes and an old table where two people sat facing each other. The people themselves I paid very little attention to, but that table, oh, that glorious cornucopia of colour and shape and size, immediately drew me in. Right. It was uneven, you see, and painted green and brown and black and a multitude of other colours, like a chain of hills dug up by a giant dog, and on it, among what seemed to be normal toy soldiers, stood giants. Some were savage with horns and axes, others noble, bearing guns and swords. All were armoured, all were glorious. Basically just saying, how he kind of got into it. It was like a single table carrying every Christmas I had until that point. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I stood there for hours, not understanding a single thing, but enjoying how the people moved the giants and their entourages, how they used them to fight, how they argued over points and rules, and 1,000 other minor things. It looked like the most fun thing I had seen in my life, and in the end, I kept going back to that little shop again and again for more years than I care to count. And then basically it just goes, Warhammer is for everyone. It is a simple enough statement, whoever you are, wherever you are, so long as you share the same love for this fictional world, you are welcome among us. And he goes on to detail the types of people he's played with. I've played with people that were younger than me and those that were older than me. I've traded tips for painting with people from across the globe. I've talked for hours about the lore with those of different genders, faiths and ethnicities. These things did not matter to me then, and they do not matter to me now. The important thing is that you are someone who shares my deep love for this bleak, distorted and amazing world. I think that I see what he's getting at already, and I'm sure you all do. That's the sentiment, right? You unify under one love for something. No matter, this is tribalistic. This whole stuff is just tribalistic nonsense. You can all unify under the love of one thing, right? You can just enjoy the love of something, and that's common ground. We seem so intent on not having common ground anymore. Why? If you don't like this, you can't have common ground with me. No. Like, what? What world are we living in now? It's absolutely bonkers. Anyway, he continues and says, Warhammer is for everyone. It is easy enough to say, but recent times have shown me it is not all easy to do. I have seen over the past few years the fandom slowly get dragged into a quagmire of terrifyingly single-minded vitriol. People who had, until that point, had fun together, talking about different aspects of their hobby and debating the lore, started arguing about anything and everything, artwork, lore, politics. At first the discussions were somewhat civil, but soon emotions started to take over. People began to argue more passionately, insults started flying, and the accusations came soon after. SJW, some said, was scorn. Fascist, others replied. Some were accused of being archaic relics, too interested in the past of the fandom, while others being whiny, spoiled newcomers who could not appreciate the heritage of the lore. People started getting banned, fans fought with fans, and even the various moderators of the forums and social media sites began to choose sides. This is this thing. Why do we refuse to have common ground? I don't understand it. And he continues and says, enough. A few calm voices said, none of these things should matter. We are all here because we love the setting and find a place to spend our short respites from the issues of the real world. Even if we don't agree on things, can't we just respect each other enough to keep these things where they belong? These things in the real world. Alas, those voices were too few, and the people like me, uninterested, unconcerned, silent, were far too many and too self-absorbed to take a stand. Today, we reap the harvest of that apathy, a community that is more fractured than ever and is on the edge of breaking apart, a community that used to be united by a shared love but is now divided by hate. He's got some fantastic points. For the longest time, I hoped the Games Workshop would step in and urge for calm and peace, that they would help heal the rifts that had opened up between us and the various groups and bind the Warhammer community into a single whole again. Sadly, my hopes were answered recently. Games Workshop released a statement in support of an altogether admirable position, one of tolerance, kindness and respect for everyone's differences. After all, why should small things like the colour of your skin matter? I agree. Aren't we all the same where it truly matters? We all live our lives as best we can, and we all love the same hobby. What is the point of focusing on our small differences when we can focus on the many, many things we have in common? Completely agree, but apparently we can't have common ground with anyone anymore. This is the world we live in. Altogether, admirable position, one of tolerance, kindness, and respect for everyone's differences. Branimir took specific issue with the final statement, so he continues and he says, and yet this statement was marred by a few words at its very end that were the death knell of my hope. 7 simple words that broke that illusion of kindness and understanding. If not, you will not be missed. True. If you do not agree with us, then you are unwanted. How can you speak of respect and tolerance when you are not prepared to offer them in kind to those you do not agree with? Is your own opinion on things more important than the tolerance you so valiantly seem to preach? Do you really believe that you can fight intolerance with scorn and disrespect with apathy? True. And this is the thing, right? His line here is absolutely fantastic. If you do not agree with us, then you are unwanted. How can you speak of respect and tolerance when you're not prepared to offer them in kind to those you do not agree with? Right? I was recently having a discussion with someone, my ex-fiancée, for instance, about the BLM movement and how I didn't agree with the organisation, but I agreed with the sentiment, right? And I think they're separate things, and I think you can support one without supporting the other. And I was just branded a racist straight away. And I was just like, what? How? And I kind of justified my points. I said I think there's an ideological infection at the core of the organisation. I think that's pretty clear to see. I don't support that kind of ideology. And I also think it's a really cheap way of promoting an ideology when the core concept of the organisation should be something different entirely. And then, again, this kind of, the sentiment here of how can you speak of respect and tolerance when you're not prepared to offer them in kind. Waited a few days and then was contacted again, same individual, saying, I'd like to understand. So I tried to explain it again, very calmly, said this, and then again branded a racist. It's just ridiculous. This kind of sentiment is absolutely disgusting, and it really has to stop. You have no tolerance. This kind of, I'm happy to listen to anyone, and I'm also happy just to agree to disagree. Like, I don't know it all. No one knows it all. No one's right. A lot of it's just opinion. You can agree to disagree, but apparently some of the most tolerant people are actually the most intolerant. It's disgusting. Anyway, he continues, you will not be missed. If you do not agree with us, then you are unneeded. Is this the message you wish to send to your fans? Do we really mean so little to you that you are prepared to toss us aside so easily? Are we not worth your time and effort to treat us with respect and try to convince us of the validity of your position? Or are we simply a resource to be used and abused as you see fit and to be tossed aside when we become even slightly inconvenient? Is this what awaits even those of us that agree with your statement? A simple pat on the head and a good boy until the time you decide we are too problematic for one reason or another. Yeah, just enjoy the fact that people like your franchise, dickheads. And he continues and he closes with, if not, you will not be missed. If you decide to leave us, then you will be unlamented. Games Workshop, you have chosen your side in the debates that are going on in the community. Sadly, you have also chosen to inflame the arguments that rage within the fandom. Instead of calming things down and working to repair the fractures, you have decided to exacerbate the problems that we were already facing. You have drawn a line in the sand that will force people to choose sides, and I cannot, for the life of me, understand why. And he basically says, the statement, Warhammer is for everyone, is a lie. Ultimately, you have made it abundantly clear that you are not interested in tolerating those who do not agree with you, in respecting those with different opinions. Love his sentiment. You have shown yourselves to be prejudiced and authoritarian, and I, for one, will no longer stay silent. I will not fight you. Warhammer is your IP, and much as I love it, I have no right to demand you change things for my benefit. However, you have brought to my attention the fact that I am unwanted and unneeded here, and so I will leave. And just like that, boom, one fan gone. And if there's one fan gone, there'll be others. That's the thing. There will be the silent people that just disappear. The majority of people will not appreciate what I have to say. And basically wish them the very best and hope that whatever happens, Warhammer survives and thrives in the future. Disgusting. Not his comments. His comments are great. But the fact that, you know, and I love the fact that these things are happening now. It was about time, but this is the thing. Like, you know, I make these videos and people are just like, you know, why do you say stuff? And it's like, well, again, because people are silent. People come to me and say, you put it into words what I can't put into words. I completely agree with you. You know, more people should be saying these things. Yeah, they should. More people should be saying these things. You know, you shouldn't be afraid of people just going, well, you're this, that, and the other. And that's a cheap argument. It's a cheap counter-argument. It shows your own stupidity. You're an ist or a phobe. Piss off. Like, that doesn't stand up. It doesn't hold water with anyone with, like, 5 brain cells. You know? You just show yourself to be, I don't know, like, the brain capacity of an amoeba. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I love the fact that he said this. I'll hand it on over to you, though. What do you guys think? It's about time there's pushback from these kind of things, and I love it. I personally really, really love it. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a really good 4th of July, because I'm recording this on the 4th of July. Take care.